Well, hello once again to Finding You Inside of You, the podcast that is designed to provoke you to think, to provoke you to look within, and to provoke you, which means nudge you, to go within and find you inside of you. And if you will, please hit that subscribe button and don't forget to share this podcast. So let's get with it. This podcast today, I believe, is going to be pretty interesting. At least I think it's going to be pretty interesting. And it is my hope that you take away from this podcast something to think about and also to go and do your own research. Okay? So a little background about this podcast, how I got from there to here. I went to New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was there for about a week, right at about a week. Now, I have been to New Orleans before, and down there in the French quarters and all of that good stuff like that. But this time it was different. I came back home, meaning with a wealth of spiritual knowledge. And staying in the French quarters, because I stayed with a friend who lives right in the French quarters. I mean, right around the corner was Bourbon Street, the famous Bourbon Street where you hear people that visit New Orleans and in the French quarters. To me, that's kind of like the happening strip, okay? But the French quarters is very, very historical, in my opinion, when it comes to Black people or African American people or the melanated people. It's very historical if you have a very good African American tour guide. And yes, I'm being a little biased here because an African American tour guide is going to really do justice as far as taking you to the sites of your own ancestors and giving you qualitative history about ancestral knowledge that relates to you. And so I'm going to put this question out there, and this is leading into the podcast. Why are we still connected to the God not of our own ancestors? And I'll read that again. Why are we, meaning Black people, African American people, melanated people, why are we still connected to the God not of our own ancestors? Stories we have been told and stories we have not been told about ourselves. So this time while I was in New Orleans, and I began to hear the stories, the true stories from the authentic people whose lineage are people that live in New Orleans and places where we toured, their mother's mother, grandmother, or grandfather, or aunties, or uncles, they left them with a wealth of knowledge, with a wealth of stories. Unlike most Black people, our stories were left out. Our stories are not taught in the schools. Our stories we're not even teaching to each other because we too have lost sight of our own self. And how do we do that? We lost sight of our own self because we didn't know to go find ourselves inside of us to ask the question, what really happened to us as Black people? What were Black people doing? And how do I connect with my own spirituality? And some of you may be thinking, oh, okay, you're trying to dance around the fact that this is the white man's religion, and we've been told that, and I've been told that. But prove me wrong. When you do your research, ask yourself, whose religion are you believing? That means, whose God are you serving? Is it the God of your ancestors? Or is it the God of someone else who told you to acculturate? That means take on the God of someone else. Now I'm going to throw two terms out there to you. When you hear the term voodoo and when you hear the term hoodoo, without thinking about it, what are the first thoughts that come to your mind? I'll repeat that. When you hear the term hoodoo and when you hear the term, let me get it back. Let me go back this way. Voodoo, and when you hear the term hoodoo, what comes to your mind? Well, let me help myself out and recall. Many years ago, I was taught that both of those terms, that was something bad. And voodoo actually means a religion, just like Christianity is a religion. Islam is a religion. Voodoo means religion. Hoodoo means practicing that religion. But what we were taught as Black people and also other people, that was something bad, that was demonic. Hoodoo and voodoo, voodoo and hoodoo. That's something bad. That's devil worship. That's witchcraft. That's casting spells on people. Who taught us that? It certainly was not our ancestors, our heritage. It was not us who taught us that. Who taught us that? And I'll go back to something Malcolm X said. Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you that voodoo and hoodoo was demonic? It's something bad. It's something that you should stay away from. That doll that you stick pins in. If you do that, that's black magic. And yes, there is a such thing as black magic. But I'm not talking about black magic, because black magic can be cross-cultural. But back to my point. Who taught us these things about our ancestors was something that's bad. To find your way back, to move your way forward, you have to go back to colonization. Colonization, when they began to go in and carve up Africa, they saw people who they deemed were barbarics or barbarians. Okay? And so they demonized the religion or the spiritual practices, because there is a difference between religion and spiritual practices. But they demonized the spiritual practices of people that look like me, our ancestors. And so they deemed them as witches and darkness and all kinds of horrible things that made it look like, and they spread this narrative throughout the world that we were barbaric people worshiping other gods other than the Jehovah God, worshiping other gods, that we were pagans, that we practiced witchcraft, that we talk to trees, that we run around with no clothes on or hardly no clothes on, that's barbaric, and something's wrong with that. Not understanding the culture or the climate of certain places in Africa, you're not going to walk around with a bunch of clothes on. But then the colonizers took the religion or spiritual practices, because they call it a religion. Our ancestors called it a spiritual practice. They took that and they twisted the script, and then Black people or melanated people or African American people bought into that narrative, and now they became afraid of their own self. They became afraid of their own ancestral spirituality. And I'll leave this part with this, with you thinking. The dominant religion in this country, in the US of A, is Christianity. But the good thing for some and the sad thing for others is that many people in the Black community, the melanated community, are beginning to wake up and ask themselves questions. Who am I? Who am I inside of me? Who are my ancestors? Why was I taught to think this way? And the more we begin to deconstruct religion versus spirituality, we're finding our way back home to our ancestors. We're finding our way back to how our ancestors understood healing. We're finding our way back to how our ancestors were priests and prophetess and prophets, not evangelists, not pastors, not teachers, not even apostles, but were prophets, meaning that they were seers, seers. They could see into the future, and in their villages, go back and do your research. Notice how in certain tribes in Africa, and even today, and let me put a comma right there, many of the African tribes in Africa have been colonized, because a lot of the tribes in Africa are Christian. But that's the spillover from colonization, the colonizers. But back to my point. When you see some of the movies, the real movies, or the documentaries, I put it that way, the documentaries, you're going to see Black people in their different tribes, or the Africans in their different tribes. And they're sitting among the elders, and they're being taught. And that history of their ancestors that they know, or our ancestors that they know, they're passing on that knowledge. And I'm going to close with this. And I'm going to ask this question again, because I'm going to talk more about this. And I'm going to get into this book, Mami Wata, the African Mother, and how the Catholic Church and the Vatican took their knowledge and took their prophetic words and their writings and hid it from them. They stole it, then they hid it. And according to this book and other research, a lot of their prophecies and a lot of their writings, because they were oracles, is sitting in the Catholic Vatican Church as I speak. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. So I ask this question again to you. When you hear the word voodoo and hoodoo, what is the first thing that come across your mind? And then after you analyze what is the first things that come across your mind, ask yourself this: who taught you that? Who told you to believe that? Who told you to think that it was evil, that there was something wrong with it? And unfortunately, a lot of what we have been taught, regardless to what your ethnicity is, we've been taught not to question it. And we have been led to believe not to question it. And you know why? Because we gave our power of thought to someone else to think for us. And we wonder why in the world we're walking around the same mountain over and over and over. It's time to reclaim your mind. And for my people that look like me, it's time to do your research and reclaim your ancestral heritage. This is Essence Evolve, helping you to find you inside of you. Follow this podcast, share it, and until the next time, do your own research. And that is working out your own soul salvation. Shalom. Ashe. Until the next time.